Don't miss out on our live coverage of the 2024 NFL Draft live tonight here on Seattle Seahawks Today. We'll get things started at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, as we will react together to the Seahawks' first-round selection. And between now and when the Seahawks pick, we're trying to reach our next milestone of 51.5 thousand subscribers, just over 80 away from reaching that mark. For the latest happenings of your favorite team all weekend long, you got to subscribe to Seahawks Today. Lock us in. Don't miss a moment. And join us tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, right here on the channel. Coming up on today's show, we have the latest Seahawks draft rumors of what Seattle could do with the 16th overall pick in the 2024 draft. Will they stay? Will they trade? We'll dissect it all. Also, if the Seahawks do stay at 16, who are the most likely options for the Seahawks to draft at that 16 position? We will dive in coming up in just a little while from right now. Tyler Jones here. Thanks for joining us here on draft day. You don't have to worry about a corny Kevin Costner movie when the real thing is here, folks. Will the Seahawks trade? Will they stay? Well, according to new reporting, there are multiple teams looking to move up in the first half of the NFL draft. So if the Seahawks do decide that they would like to move, there are several options for them to do so. Let's begin with this report from Dan Graziano of ESPN saying the following. The people I talked to think we're likely to see more trades in the second half of the first round than in the first half. The Colts, number 15, Jags, number 17, Rams, number 19, and Eagles, 22, are all teams I've heard have been making calls about potentially moving up. Now, in the Seahawks case, I am not opposed to trading down in the first round of this draft, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Seahawks ultimately do trade down in this draft. But as I have consistently told you throughout this entire offseason, when you guys have asked me, Tyler, do you think the Seahawks are going to trade down? Should they trade down? And it's the same answer I've given every time. It all depends on how the board shakes out. There's a couple guys that if they're there, you can't say no to, and you need to pick in that spot. Otherwise, the Seahawks are open for business. Those three trade candidates, as mentioned in Graziano's reporting, include the Jags, the Rams, and the Eagles, and that's just what we know of. And so with those teams being relatively close to the Seahawks range there at 16, you're looking at potentially picking up an extra pick or two in those middle rounds if you were to move down. Now, some of the others, if you're looking at teams in, let's say, the late 25 to 32 range, all of a sudden we're talking about second or third round pick potential that what you could grab up in addition to moving down. The wild cards to watch for, two players that I sit here and say to myself are going to kind of tell us a lot of things. Brock Bowers, if Brock Bowers is around, the Seahawks are taking him. That's no question about it. And then Byron Murphy, I think, is going to be an interesting case study because we've seen his stock really shoot up the last couple of weeks. If Murphy is picked before the Seahawks pick, that will kind of give us a vibe of where this direction of the draft is going as far as that goes. I think there's about a 50-50 chance right now the Seahawks trade down. If I were to guess on the morning of the draft today, I would put it as a 50-50 shot. I could see the Seahawks staying. I could see them trading down either one, but it seems to be the odds right now I would put right there. So let's ask you, should the Seahawks trade down from 16th overall? What do you guys think? Is this the move for Seattle to go forward with trading down, or should they stay where they're at? Why for yes and for no? Why in the comment section, let us know what you think. Today's show is sponsored by Game Time. Game Time, the place to go for last-minute tickets, the best seats, the lowest prices guaranteed. Prices drop as events get closer with Game Time. Whether you're looking for tickets to sporting events, concerts, theater productions, comedy shows, and more, Game Time has got you covered. Maybe you want to go see your Seattle Mariners sometime in the next couple of weeks. They make it easy for you. You pick the game or event you want to go to, then you pick the seat, see if that seat is for you or not. Might stumble upon a flash deal. Then from there, you're checking out with Game Time. With Apple Pay, Google Pay, Venmo, all major credit card providers, Game Time makes it easy. And to sweeten the pot a little for you, we're offering you $20 off your first purchase on Game Time when you use the promo code ChatSports. That's promo code ChatSports for $20 off. Terms and conditions do apply. Download Game Time today. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. Game Time, proud partner of Seattle Seahawks today. So if Seattle does stay at 16, who are they likely to select with the 16th overall pick? Let's break those down. I think there's 5 players that have the best chance of being that pick for Seattle. And it starts with Troy Fautanu, the offensive lineman out of the University of Washington. And there's questions about it. Is he a guard? Is he a tackle? Whatever it may be. Ryan Grubb and Scott Huff, the Seahawks' new offensive coordinator and offensive line coach, they know everything there is to know when it comes to Troy Fautanu. They'll find a role for him one way or the other. I'm not worried. I think that he would more than likely be a guard in Seattle's system, but they'll get the most out of him one way or the other. Maybe he moves to tackle down the line, but I'm not worried about that. The concern for me is the knee issue. We heard the reports this week about that medical red flag. Is that going to be something that lingers on? Because the reporting that we heard from Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated this week was that it wasn't an issue that's a problem right now, but something that could affect him down the road. So we'll monitor that and see. Is that going to be something that scares the Seahawks away? We shall see. But he is still, as we begin on this draft morning, the odds-on favorite to be Seattle's pick as of right now. Let's ask you, will the Seahawks go through with drafting Troy Fautanu, or will they go a different direction? Let us know what you think. D for draft, P for pass. Is this the pick for Seattle at 16? Let us know what you think. Byron Murphy, we mentioned him as one of the wild cards in this draft, could end up being in position where he's not even available when the Seahawks pick at 16, or he could be right there in their lap and be the anchor in the middle that the Seahawks defense is looking for. We've heard from Mike Macdonald that the Seahawks want to build a wall defensively. They want to make offenses pay for it, right? We've seen Murphy's stock is soaring. The Seahawks at this point are going to be lucky if he's still around at 16 with the recent projections that have him going as high as he is. We'll see what ultimately plays out. But Byron Murphy, a guy that is trending the right direction, coming off a year with 5 sacks, 8.5 tackles for loss, and 29 tackles. He was a beast last year, helping lead the Texas Longhorns to a Big 12 title and a college football playoff berth. The team they faced in the college football playoff, the Washington Huskies, were led by quarterback Michael Penix Jr. And while there is, it seems, an outside chance the Seahawks go quarterback here, it can't be completely ruled out at this point. And here's the million-dollar question that the Seahawks have to ask themselves. That offensive staff knows Michael Penix Jr. as well as anybody. We heard Joel Klatt say earlier this week that the Seahawks should draft Penix because he believes Penix can lead this team to a Super Bowl. Does the offensive staff feel that way? Do they feel like Penix can do that? They've seen him firsthand for multiple years at the University of Washington. If the offensive staff feels that Penix can be the difference maker, that he can get this Seahawks team over the hump and be the reason they go to a Super Bowl, then it's an easy decision. You draft Michael Penix Jr. But if the offensive staff, who knows him as well as anybody, says, yeah, he's not our guy, then he's not your guy. It's very simple when it comes to Michael Penix, one way or the other. If he is a Super Bowl champion caliber quarterback, go ahead and take him for all I care. Cooper DeJean, a very interesting case study in this year's draft. The unicorn, if you will, of the 2024 NFL Draft. A star player out of the University of Iowa, and with all the different skill sets that he brings to the table. Is he a corner? Is he a safety? Is he a nickel? I don't care what he is. He's the second coming of Kyle Hamilton is what he is. And Kyle Hamilton thrived in Mike Macdonald's defense in Baltimore. You put him in Seattle, let Cooper DeJean flourish and do his thing and be a rover that floats around, he'll find a way to be successful in this Seahawks defense. We've seen him do it all for the Iowa Hawkeyes over the last 2 seasons, making plays, creating turnovers, creating havoc with quarterbacks, holding them to a QB rating of just under 38 last year. I think Cooper DeJean would thrive in this Seahawks defense and be a natural fit no matter where you put him. And obviously you have Devin Witherspoon with his role to be determined exactly. There's indications that he would be a nickelback or as opposed to being a outside corner, whatever it may be. You find a spot for DeJean and just let those playmakers make plays. I like the fit for DeJean potentially in Seattle. One more to get to in just a bit, but let's ask you, who should the Seahawks draft in the first round? Whether they stay at 16 or trade down either one, who should they go with? Let us know in the comments section one name you would like to see be a Seahawk by the end of the night. Last on this list is Jared Verse, the edge rusher out of Florida State. I really like Jared Verse, and the thing that I've said about Jared Verse when it comes to this draft, comparing him to, let's say, a Dallas Turner, who was thought of as a potential Seahawks draft prospect a couple months ago, but his stock has just gone out of the range for the Seahawks at 16. With Jared Verse is compared to Dallas Turner. Turner may have the highest ceiling when it comes to defensive players, especially edge rushers in this draft, but I think Jared Verse is the safest defensive pick in this draft. He is the closest sure thing that we have in the 2024 NFL draft. You look at the consistency. Didn't matter if it was at Albany. Didn't matter if it was Florida State. You know what he did? 9 sacks. 9 sacks. 9.5 sacks. Consistently solid and a playmaker throughout his years. Didn't matter what uniform he put on in his college career. So to recap, our draft targets, where we see the Seahawks likely going tonight with their number 12 pick, one of these 5 guys, whether it's Troy Fautanu, whether it's Byron Murphy, Michael Penix, Cooper DeJean, Jared Verse. I feel pretty good. If Seattle stays at 16, it'll be one of these 5. We'll see. Join us tonight. Smitty's going to be here with me as well. We'll see you at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific for live coverage of the 2024 NFL Draft. Subscribe now, and we will see you then.